Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and feeling great out there this morning, having a great start to your day and a fantastic week out there so far. I got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Wednesday. There's multiple things to talk about. We obviously know about this big system, multiple systems entering the Pacific Northwest. This is bringing snow for areas, a lot of rain for other areas, and this will continue to be a storyline over the next several days as this Arctic boundary that's really going to set up begins to move southeastward, and eventually the central U.S., even deeper into the Dakotas, maybe even western Nebraska, more of Wyoming, maybe even Colorado could get into the winter weather action. At the same time, we have energy that continues to get pulled up into the south central U.S. We'll speak on that. Well, we do have a flooding potential, a real, I wouldn't say serious situation right now, but we have a pretty significant risk of flash flooding occurring today in areas of Texas and Oklahoma. This moisture is also getting into the Great Lakes region, and we'll speak on all of that. For the second half of the video, we'll give you an update on Tammy. Tammy is a pretty strong hurricane out there right now in the Atlantic, but we're expecting Tammy to weaken. But we will give you an update on Hurricane Tammy, and then we'll speak on, very briefly, some information that I just mentioned about a minute ago, that this Arctic front will ooze into the central U.S., and with it, you could have energy that rises boundary, and we could get some winter weather coming up for the central U.S., but we're not going to get super detailed on that. We're going to do that in tonight's video. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to speak on the fact that this colder than average air will eventually make it all the way to the eastern U.S. and bring our coldest air of the season, most likely. The Great Lakes snow machine could eventually kick-started with this cold front. A lot to speak on. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. Asking for prayers for my youngest daughter. She's got a cough. In fact, you might hear in this video at some point she's coughing like crazy. She feels fine, just got a pesky cough. It seems to happen a couple times a year, so she's definitely dealing with a cough. Just asking for prayers of that. And before we get going with this video, I want to mention this, and I know I don't talk about the Eastern Pacific much, but this needs to be mentioned as this is a huge storyline in the weather world. What was supposed to just be Tropical Storm Otis, which you see right here, okay, and it was supposed to make landfall as Tropical Storm Otis on the Pacific side of Mexico. Just the models failed us completely. All models, the hurricane models, the global models. Of course, when every single model points to just a tropical storm, maybe weak hurricane, then of course the National Hurricane Center isn't going to forecast a Category 5 hurricane rapidly developing, and then making landfall. But that is exactly what happened. And unfortunately, there's a city that has well over, I believe, 600,000 plus people who live in it. It's a big tourist spot. I'm going to try to pronounce it. I think it's pronounced Acapulco, Mexico. Look it up on Google. You'll look at it, and it's a beautiful looking city, tourist spot. And they took a direct landfall from this high-end hurricane. When I say high-end, Category 5 hurricane, this is it right here. It's just as quickly as it rapidly strengthened, it's rapidly weakening because it's hitting the elevated areas of the plateaus of Mexico. But I mean, the damage is done, and the sun's going to come up on this area. So just asking for prayers for this region. I don't know how bad the damage is. We won't know, like I said, until the sun comes up. But I imagine we're going to see a lot of pictures, a lot of videos from social media from this area. But they took it on the chin. I mean, direct landfall in the city, it looks like. I don't know if the actual eye went through the city. But man, I don't know what we're about to see. So, but speaking on everybody else, there's Tammy. We will speak on Tammy for the second half of the video. And let's start drawing on this a little bit. This is Otis, Hurricane Otis. I don't even know if I told you guys the name. That is Otis. Or I don't know if it's pronounced Otis. It might be. I didn't even take the time to look at the way it was pronounced, but it's O-T-I-S. So I'm rolling with Otis. Might not be that, but we see this rich feed of moisture into this region. The south central U.S. has a legit flooding threat today. We'll speak on that. Moisture all the way into the Great Lakes region will continue. And then we got our system. You see this spin right here. This is continuing to funnel in moisture. We have the trough digging down here. This will continue to push southeastward, eventually making it, all the way down here into this region here in the coming days. But the areas that you see in the blues, the greens, the yellows, some of that is falling in the form of snow. Some of it is falling in the form of rain. Montana, most of it is snow. Well, let's get this off your screen. Let's keep rolling here. Don't want to spend too much time on that. But here it is. Here's Otis. This thing was a horrible looking hurricane, meaning not horrible like a weak hurricane, but horrible as in, just very strong. Scary. Downright scary. The way that it intensified, I believe it increased 85 miles per hour in strength in 12 hours, which breaks the record. I believe that was what it was. And of course, it's weakening. As you can see, the cloud tops are cooling now, but the damage is done, and we're going to see what it looks like. But like I said, I know I've said it multiple times, but it needs to be said more and more. Prayers are up for that region for sure. Excuse me. Talking about what's going on in the lower 48, a lot of moisture falling in the form, excuse me guys, I'm sorry about that. Falling in the form of showers and storms down here in Texas. In fact, we got a pretty long line stretching from the Mexico-Texas border all the way up into southern Kansas of showers and storms moving through. Nothing is severe, just dropping a lot of heavy rain. And then we just have a kind of a streamer of moisture going through Missouri, a lot of rain falling in Illinois, and just light to at times moderate rain falling in Michigan, areas of eastern Wisconsin, and mainly the eastern UP of Michigan. So we got some heavier kind of rain falling in areas of northern New York State. And then you see the blue kind of grayish color right here. That is snow falling in Montana. Cold air is kind of moved in, and it's going to stay in for the long haul for the next several days at least. And then you got the green still in those lower elevations. Snow levels are going to continue to probably drop as cold air kind of makes its way in. But yeah, a lot of moisture into the Pacific Northwest falling this morning, and this will continue to, do nothing but increase in coverage in areas. And I think in the next day and a half, you're going to have an all-out winter storm that really gets cranked up over areas of North Dakota. Speaking of severe storms, you got two areas to watch. These could connect. Might not. You got a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5 risk for severe storms down here in Texas, southern Oklahoma. And then this marginal risk up here for areas of Kansas, Nebraska, Missouri, and extreme southwest areas of Iowa. This does include Omaha, Lincoln, so some bigger communities, bigger cities. Not big like in New York City big, but Omaha is certainly a bigger town in the state of Nebraska for sure. But a tornado threat, it only likes this area down here in Texas, a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. Wind threat, just a 5% risk. Hail threat, just a 5% risk. Excessive rainfall outlook, this is a bigger deal today. You got the moderate risk up. This is pretty big too, covering up pretty large areas of Texas. I'm going to go on and pull up my Google Maps on here, so when we do get to the south central U.S. time frame, we can mention maybe some towns, cities, and communities, things like that. But this does go through areas like, Abilene up to Wichita Falls, into southern sections of Oklahoma, all the way down to San Angelo. It looks like it's into that region. It is. So a lot of rain's going to fall. That means there's a 40% chance in this red area of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles at any given point. Same criteria, but a 15% risk in the yellow area. So watches and warnings. Flood watches are up because of the flooding risk today and in the heart of Texas up into southern and central areas of Oklahoma. All right, and then we got all these winter alerts up here. We got winter storm warnings up for the heart of Montana, winter storm watches up for the teal colors. So, we're confident winter storm, and it's already ongoing for the most part in northern areas, especially northwestern sections of North Dakota. But winter storm watches even up for central and the southwestern counties of North Dakota now. And we got winter weather advisories in the purple color. But we got to see, does some of these winter alerts extend down to Wyoming? I do think they will. But yeah, there's a lot going on up here. Winter is definitely has moved in now. And things are really deteriorating out there. You guys will have to let me know how much snow you've seen already, Karen, a couple other folks. If you're viewing in up for that region, we're about to break it down a little bit more in a detailed manner. But let me know what y'all are seeing out there, how much snow y'all got in the ground, what you're seeing just in general. Southeast. Some showers could continue to make their way into the low country of South Carolina, maybe around the Savannah region. They could make it all the way to the Columbia region. Then we could get just some on and off really light rain showers that could, just an easterly flow, could make their way into areas of Florida today. So just some light shower action, no storms really, and we could get some showers even into areas of southern Georgia. But outside of that, for the southeast, just a little bit of an easterly flow around this high pressure that you see right here. But outside of that, that will help aid in the dry air from basically getting more moist in these regions. In fact, South Carolina is kind of a weird state today where you're in the 40s for a lot of the state, but if you get closer to Charleston, down to the Hilton Head area, down to Beaufort, I mean, it's in the 60s. So big time temperature gradient across certain areas depending on how much of a moisture return you got. Northeast today, got some showers in New York State this morning. These will continue. HRRR model is not doing the best at picking this up, but as we're getting into early afternoon, some showers are possible in northern New York State, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, very possible. And then we'll watch more of an organized area of rain that moves out of, well, it moves throughout northern Ohio. Cleveland will certainly have a rainy afternoon. This will move into Erie, northwestern areas of PA. We'll begin to take over areas of Buffalo just in the form of some light rain, some sprinkles. And eventually, as we get late into the evening, some showers can make their way into the southern tier of New York, Finger Lakes region, and northern sections also of PA. And then we'll get some light rain, maybe at times moderate rain that falls throughout the night. Then we're waking up to some showers, most likely in the southern sections and central and southern sections of New York State. Showers are possible, continuing up here in Maine also. Just a kind of the front end of this fetch of moisture that's riding over the middle of the country, but it looks like it weakens as it gets into the northeast, but still good enough for some rain. Man, so the south central U.S., look at these temperatures that you're waking up to this morning. You're waking up to a balmy, for this time of the year, 65 degrees, 67 degrees in Kansas City. Some areas are sitting at 70 degrees around the St. Louis area. Little Rock, kind of the same thing. Springfield, Missouri. Dallas, you're in the low 70s. These are typical low temperatures you see in the summertime. I mean, in South Texas and the coastline of Texas, you're waking up to temperatures in the upper 70s. This is pretty wild. So definitely a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. I mean, it's humid too in some of these areas, a lot of these areas. And but don't worry if you can't stand this. If you're ready for some cooler than average temperatures, it's coming for everybody you see on this screen. But I want to show you this. It's very impressive for late October. As far as the showers and storms, I'll take a broader look at this first. And this will continue across Texas, across areas of Oklahoma. You'll get some downpours that will ride through areas and redevelop in areas of central and eastern Kansas. Some downpours will roll through central Missouri throughout the day. And then we'll continue to just have a fetch of showers and storms over kind of central and more so kind of west central Texas, up to North Texas, up into Oklahoma. And in fact, let's go on and just zoom into this region now. Here it is starting off this morning, the HRRR model doing a decent job at picking up on this. And I mean, really, I think if you live in like Midland, Odessa, Amarillo, I don't think you'll get much rain, if any, today. I think it's once you move like east into, say, the Abilene area, down to the San Angelo region, up to the Wichita Falls region. I think these will be areas that see a lot of rain today. Okay, and then we're getting into the late morning hours into about midday. These storms are continuing just to redevelop over these regions. Heavy rain, and there is a small tornado risk down here. Okay, there's a 2% risk of a tornado. These won't really be supercells, I don't think, but I mean, we're getting to 6 p.m. around dinner time. You're just dealing with a lot of storm activity, even getting into southern Oklahoma. You got to watch out Oklahoma City, certainly a rainy evening starting to take hold later on this evening. And I mean, we take it to about 9 p.m., 10, 11, midnight. You still got storms surging over the central sections of Texas into northern Texas. And these are continuing overnight. And eventually, as we're waking up tomorrow morning, these could eventually make it into the Dallas-Fort Worth area where you might be waking up to some heavy rain. Also down into central Texas too. We really need this rain into eastern Texas and to Louisiana. So hopefully we can get that here in the coming days. But rainfall between now and the next 24 hours. I mean, another 1 to as much as 3 inches of rain is possible in this area. Same thing with southern Oklahoma, maybe a little bit less once you get into central Oklahoma. But guys, a lot of rain could fall fast in some of these areas. Some areas I could see getting 4 to 5 inches of rain if you continue to get storms to roll over the same areas. But a lot of these areas are going to see rain. The Vernon region will see a lot of rain today. Just trying to mention some towns. Sterling City could see a lot. Brownwood could see a lot of rain today. Breckenridge, Graham. Yeah, so a lot of areas for sure, guys. Just, be safe out there. If you get under a flash flood warning, take it serious. Lawton, Duncan, Oklahoma. Yeah, so be safe out there today. North Central U.S., we'll really speak on this area, the warmer side. This is the colder side. We'll speak on the Dakotas here in a second, but we'll continue to deal with some showers throughout Michigan today. I think that it doesn't really let up at all in southern Michigan and Indiana. I think they'll move out of Illinois. You might get a little bit of a break in Illinois, but kind of the northern half of Indiana, northwest Ohio, southern sections of Michigan like Detroit, places like that will continue to just see rain throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, even into the overnight hours. And then as we're getting into the wee hours of the morning, more moisture begins to kind of get going here around the Minneapolis area into areas kind of moving out of eastern Nebraska. So one side of the state of Iowa seeing rain, the other seeing rain too, and even more rain will begin to take over northern Illinois and most of Wisconsin, and then even getting into areas of the UP and Michigan where I think you'll wake up to a rainy start to your day for your Thursday morning. But it looks like you're waking up to a lot of rain, even some heavier rain, kind of embedded heavy rain into this area as we're waking up tomorrow morning. So definitely some rainy times, some damp times, a lot of clouds, things like that. Let's talk about the northern plains, which includes the Dakotas, Nebraska, Wyoming, areas of Montana. We'll get the other half of Montana here in a second, but waking up to a shield of snow, this will continue and begin to really fully take over the northern counties of North Dakota throughout the day today. It'll continue to snow in a large section of Montana, but not everybody will see snow. Like the southeastern portion of the state of Montana won't see snow. Snow begins to really pick up in intensity in the Yellowstone National Park, northwest areas of Wyoming. It's probably getting enhanced from those higher elevations, still dealing with snow in the southern counties of Montana. But I really think of an all-out snowstorm really fully takes a hold of you guys in the northern counties, especially the northwest counties of North Dakota throughout the morning and the afternoon hours. And this continues, and then you'll get some kind of break. And remember, at the same time, this Arctic air is really starting to kind of surge southeastward. So as we're getting into tonight, into the wee hours of the morning, an area of snow begins to develop, and you'll be woken up by an area of snow a little bit further south in North Dakota, even seeing some snow in extreme northwest areas of South Dakota. And then some snow is falling and really taking hold of the southern half of Montana, and even some more snow is starting to fall a little bit further southeast into Wyoming. So snowfall between now and the next 24 hours. I mean, you could get over a half a foot of snow easy between just now and the next 24 hours. But you got to remember here, there's another area of snow that could be even more substantial that moves into these areas of the Dakotas here in the next day and a half, really in the next day. And we'll speak on that. We'll speak on that this evening in great detail. But snow's really going to add up in northwest Wyoming. Was the Bighorn Mountains right here in Wyoming. Snow will add up in a few inches to several inches as possible. The heart of Montana, several inches of snow will fall in these regions. Speaking out west, moisture will continue to funnel into the Pacific Northwest. We're getting into this afternoon and a lot of heavy precipitation rumbling over Idaho about midday today. I mean, some of this will fall in the form of very heavy snow in those higher elevations. Some, it'll fall in the form of just a heavy, cold rain. But it even shows some snow falling today in these lower elevations of Washington State. Of course, like the eastern sections like Medford, Eugene, Portland, you guys will just see a very chilly area, kind of rounds of heavy rain that'll move through. And then we're getting into the late afternoon to this evening. The moisture begins to sink a little bit further south, down here into Nevada. And just as this jet continues to sink south and the moisture kind of sinks south with it, and then we're waking up tomorrow morning with heavy snow falling in these higher elevations of Utah, western Wyoming, eastern Idaho, and light to moderate snow across Montana. And then we'll continue to watch another system after this. And this one's developing right here over the Rockies. But the Cascades is going to pick up a lot of snow today. We'll talk about that here in a second. But this is the mountains in Idaho just between now and the next 24 hours. A lot of snow is going to fall in these higher elevations of Idaho and then of western areas of Montana. So, how did y'all say y'all pronounced that city in Montana? Helena? It don't matter how many times y'all tell me in the comments. I'll still just never retain it when I'm trying to do it on the fly in these videos. So, but those areas will see snow today. Pretty much a lot of areas will eventually see some sort of snowfall accumulation from these multiple rounds of systems that move through this region for sure. But let's talk about the Pacific Northwest. Cascades will pick up a lot of snow from this. It's already been picking up a lot of snow from this, but we'll pick up even more today. So temperatures, and I didn't mention the regular just precipitation expected. There's a lot of rain that's going to fall, over a half an inch to an inch of rain that could fall even in these lower elevations. So did want to mention that. Temperatures today still hanging on to nice conditions in the eastern U.S. for dear life, but I think it's inevitable that the 80s will return to some of these areas in the southeast. But a nice day in the northeast, warming up into the 60s for a lot of areas, 70s and low 80s down here in the southeast. And yeah, it just continues to be above average temperature-wise into the Midwest. And chilly conditions in kind of the upper Midwest and kind of the northern plains. But, you know, it's nothing compared to what's coming. You know, Montana's starting to fully get locked into the freezer. The only areas that will be hanging off to warmer temperatures for dear life and it is extreme southeastern Montana. But this front is making its way in later this evening into the overnight hours, and you know, another nice day into the upper high plains. But you know, these same areas could see snow in the coming days, so enjoy these warm days for sure as this Arctic air continues to ooze southeastward very slowly. But nice day in the Pacific Northwest. I'm sorry, the desert Southwest. But you know, all these areas will be below average temperature wise here in the coming days. Tammy, let's give you an update on the tropics. 100-mile-per-hour hurricane, category 2 hurricane, guys. All right, and this is Tammy out here in the Southwest Atlantic, North Atlantic, kind of, you can call it the same thing almost. Just this entire area is considered the North Atlantic. Bermuda's right here. Feels like I got a sneeze coming. Okay, looks like we're good. But I mean, Tammy's got an eye. Hurricane Tammy out here just doing its thing. And if you look at the latest cone from Zoom Earth, and this is the cone from the National Hurricane Center too, could strengthen another 5 to 10 miles per hour. Does it make it to a major hurricane, which is 115? Not sure, but at some point it's going to lose its tropical characteristics, maybe sometime tonight, become post-tropical, and then eventually probably meander just maybe south, just east, maybe southeast of Bermuda, and it's forecast to weaken. But as you can tell, the cone gets very wide in this area. That means the uncertainty is very high. But I think regardless of what this does, I think it will weaken and eventually not be a storyline anymore. But guys, I do want to mention this, the latest GFS, we're going to have another big push of moisture that's going to move into the northern plains. I think this will actually be, you know, we're talking a lot on the northern Rockies right now, but I think the northern plains will be a big story like the rest of Montana, eastern Montana, the Dakotas, Wyoming, maybe even western sections of Nebraska. I think you guys, as we're getting into Thursday, into Friday morning, big winter storm has the potential to really develop in these regions. Look at that 1040 high based off the HRRR model. And this could drop a lot of snow, even sneak into northern sections of Minnesota, where I think some winter weather alerts will get issued into these regions. And then we got to watch this, guys, into this weekend. I'm telling you, not going to get super detailed on this, but this is for Saturday. Right in the heart of the weekend, another area of moisture gets going with the Arctic boundary finally getting kind of putting the pedal to the metal here, kind of putting the foot into the gas, because this boundary is moving very slow right now, but this continues to seek southward, and then the jet's digging right into here, and we could have moisture that really overruns over this Arctic air. And guys, I mean, you know, this is pretty far south. You know, this is getting into Iowa, deeper into Nebraska, down to Kansas, and then, you know, look at these areas of blue coming up here. You got some wintry colors showing up even down here in Texas. So it's something to watch. Some snow showing up for northern areas of Maine as we get about 5-6 days out, and then this Arctic air mass moves over this Great Lakes as we're getting into next week, and here comes these lake effect snow bands firing off all the Great Lakes. So we got some snow showing up around this time next week for the Northeast. I'm not talking about a nor'easter where Boston, New York City gets a major winter storm. I'm talking about some streamers off that lake effect energy. So we need to watch this. This is some interesting times ahead. And if you look at the snow between now and the next week, you see the Great Lakes machine kicking up for Lake Michigan, Superior up here. We need to watch this. And then we watch Nebraska, areas of Kansas, these areas right in here. There is a signal. There's a signal for ice too, all the way down into areas of Texas. So western Oklahoma, Kansas, we watch that. And we'll get very detailed on all this tonight. But the last thing I'll hint on is these below average temperatures are eventually going to knock this ridge away. And by the time we're getting into around the last day of October, okay, the below average temperatures have taken over most of the U.S. You're starting to warm up a little bit in the extreme western areas of the country, but it's really starting to take over. And by the time we get into the first day of November, below average temperatures are really taking over most of the eastern U.S., southern U.S., Great Lakes region. And I think we could have a cold start to November for a lot of areas. We'll get very detailed on this tonight. That's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you this evening.